Welcome to the next episode of Quality Time. And we have a very significant personality here. Meet Mr. GPJ Gupta. So GPJ was a president in the fourth largest bank in India, that is Kotak Mahindra Bank, and he led the business solutions group. And currently, he is heading large projects for innovation and business transformation in Aditya Birla Capital, which is the fifth largest NBFC, the financial services group in this country. So welcome, GPJ.
Thank you for having me here.
So GPJ, you have a significant experience. Last 24 years, you are working in banking segment and you led large projects. So it will be great if you can make a brief introduction for our viewers before we start our conversation.
Thanks, Rahul, having me here. I was in Kotak Mahindra Bank for almost 21 years. I was president and heading the business solutions group in Kotak Mahindra Bank. Business solutions does that understand what is the business requirements, how the technology can fulfill the business needs. I was heading the consumer banking, retail liabilities, retail assets, digital channels, all for which we understand the newer technologies, emerging technologies, how we can convert into the business fulfillment of the business needs. As part of that, we used to launch a lot of new products, new solutions, customer experience enhancement, how we can improve the customer experience day by day. And also, of course, we used to take care of the regulatory risk also. And currently, I'm in Aditya Birla Capital. I was heading the large tech projects for the group companies, which can cut across all the entities of the Aditya Birla Capital, which includes innovation transformation for all the group companies. And in this journey, we are working on some of the new technologies which can actually enhance the customer experience. The first project I started. As part of that, we are doing a lot of new solutions implementation and execution of those projects, and also focusing on the adoption of the new solutions.
So 24 years, GPJ is a fairly long time, right? What technology could do 24 years before and what you have today at your disposal, there is a significant change. What do you see as a major change from this digital transformation initiative from a technology standpoint, and how is it impacting these initiatives?
Actually, technology is changing very rapidly, correct? If you ask me when I started my career in 2001, technology is very, very nascent stage, correct? Everything is manual, and you don't believe that we used to take the application forms for a bank account opening to door, knock the door, and we used to ask them to sign the application forms, physical application forms, and take the Xerox copies of all the KYC documents from the customer. But today, the technology is made us enable customer can sit wherever, whenever, whatever the time they want to open. Just they can open to any of the banking apps, and they can download it and open the account within 4 minutes. Not only opening the account, complete the KYC, and actually start operating the account within 4 minutes. That is where the technology advancement is happening last 24 years, if you ask me.
Yes.
And see the payments, correct? When we are, if you ask me 21 years back, we only know the fund transfer or writing the check for making the payments. And after that, of course, EFT started. Then after the NEFT, RTGS, everything is came in. Now, if you ask me, the payment world is completely changed, which instant payment, even you can pay to the vegetables or even taxi driver, auto driver also by using the UPI. You can make the instant payment irrespective of the value of the money, correct? That is where the technology advancement you can see it. I think this all we achieved with the great new emerging technologies, and the banking sector is completely changed from the last 24 years. If you ask me, it is a huge change happened everywhere.
So even digital transformation is not new, right? The word is coined almost 12, 15 years back. There is a significant investment being done in the world. But then what are the priorities now versus what were 15 years back? I'm sure it gives a competitive edge. And if you look at the Indian banking segment, what are the top 2, top 3 competitive areas where there is a significant investment being done?
Yeah, actually, if you ask me why the banks have adopted the new technologies, is it because of the competition? And number two is the technologies. Um, Now customers are highly demanding, correct? And if you're not meeting the customer demands, or if you're not meeting the customer expectations, you'll not be in the business next day. And now customers are not comparing with the other bank, how is your product, how is your experience. Really, customers are comparing with the quick commerce or the e-commerce platforms or the OTT platforms, that if the something is given by Zepto or a Blinkit, why can't bank can give it? The comparison by the customer itself is changed drastically in last 2 decades, correct? And now the banks are actually thinking that is the competitor is the other bank, or is my competitor is a quick commerce guy or the e-commerce guy, correct? That is way the technology is being changed. Now, where the investment is going on from the banks is that, if you ask me, whatever I see in my bank itself, if you ask me, to get even 10 crores of a budget in technology was very, very difficult once upon a time. Now, any bank balance sheet we see, it is minimum 1000 crores, 1200 crores is a budgets in the technology. And whether the technology in a specific technology banks are spending, answer may not be no, because banks are spending across everywhere, that start from the infrastructure, cybersecurity, network, as long, and also on the emerging technologies like blockchain, generative AI, and mobile banking technologies. Because one technology cannot give you all. You have to use the multiple technologies, correct? And second is that the speed at which you have to be in the market. The go-to-market speed is very, very high nowadays, correct? Because if you want to launch now, we have to launch it now. You cannot wait for 3 months or 4 months. Hence, you have to do a lot of automation in this process. Okay? Either you name it as a DevOps or CI/CD process or anything, this all is comes with the speed. And that speed will come, for that you have to pay some money. There is a huge investment happening. And other place where the banks has to spend is on the skills, because banks have got the people who are working on the technology for years and years, but technology is getting changed. Unless if the people or the talent is not getting upgraded or upskilled, then the new technology cannot be used in the organizations. Hence, there are a lot of investment is happening on the upskilling of the technology team, and not as well as the non-technology teams. And other place where the banks are spending is a lot of automations. The automation includes from the time you are thinking of the business, how we want to do it, how we want to render your customer experience, and how we want to build some solution by using the technology. Because you know that GitHub and all, once you have the BRD, just upload it, it will give some basic code with which you can do the A/B testing and all. And after the solution is built, how you can quickly test it. The testing is also is very important, right? And a lot of focus going on the testing automation is not only from the domain or functional testing, but of course it is going from the unit testing itself. Because unless if you prepone, we normally call it as a shift left, correct? Earlier, the normal process is that, okay, developer develops and everything, he will do the QAT, after that he will send it for the user acceptance testing. But in shift left, what happens is that the testing process itself is preponed at early stage, so that if any bugs or anything gets identified, before if that deployment is put into the UAT, the developer knows that this is what is a bug, I have to fix it before even release it for the user acceptance testing. That is where again a lot of investment is made by the banks. And of course, for adoption is very, very critical for any new technology to be used, implemented across the organizations, especially on the large organizations where you have few thousands of employees are in our organization, correct? Again, you have to spend time on the training, making them to unlearn and learn the new technology. That is where again the money is going on. And of course, from the customer side of it, the competition is very high. And unless if you spend money for the customer adoption, customer will not be adopting your technology, or if the new features anything is there, correct? That is where the lot of money is spent by the banks.
This is a great answer. You touched upon three very important points, GPJ. One, the speed at which the bank needs to adopt the technology and create that experience for their customers, which defines their growth. Second one, the upskilling, which is a continuous process now, because technology is changing very rapidly. And third, most important, all these things is not possible without thinking automation the moment you think about change. And shift left need a significant investment even in test automation from that perspective. So what was your experience from making a decision to adopt Salesforce till the time the go-to market happened? What were the challenges, especially the speed and the quality perspective?
When I joined in ABC, there was no automation tool, test automation tool. Of course, they've done a lot of things which I've done it in the Kotak Bank, but when it is coming to the testing phase, there was no automation, it was manual testing. Then I told that why can't we do the automation testing? Initially, there is a resistance that okay, again the same thing what we did in the Kotak and what I heard from my users and teams that it is very difficult. But we tried to convince that okay, from the starting of the project itself, why can't we have the automation of the testing? At that is the time we evaluated our product, Qualitia product, and couple of other products, and we chosen finally Qualitia product and one implement in one organization because we want to test it before spread across all the organizations. In that case itself, you know that there were around 22,000 plus scenarios you have to test it. And here advantage is that already most of the testing is done manually. Then this is actually right time I thought that okay, let me check is really the automation will help to bring the speed, bring the accuracy, and at the same time cost savings because ROI is very important at the end of the day. And what we've seen is that at least after the implementation, whatever is tested manually, when we tested with the Qualitia, the outcomes are same, but of course testing time is reduced drastically. Now, whenever we go into the new implementation of the Salesforce, our strategy is that okay, let us start the automation of the testing from the day zero, completely shift left, so that before the product comes for the UAT itself, that product should be tested at least 70 to 80% by the automation test tools, so that your manual testing time can be reduced and it can be used for the regression testings, correct? Because when you have the frequent releases, every week you want to release it, you cannot test the entire system for within a week by manually. But once you have the automation testing, then as soon as the development completed by the developer, before he goes home at night, just switch on the automation button. Next day morning when the developer comes, actually you can see what he's done for the entire day is right or wrong, and we can correct it. And it is going to save a lot of time.
Absolutely.
That is what our
Yes.
plan to implement in the ABC.
So GPJ, this is very interesting. So in a previous project, there was a lot of manual testing, and now you believe automation needs to be started almost at day zero. So what changed? What made you believe that automation is a must-to-have investment right from beginning? I'm talking about test automation.
Uh, we have tried couple of frameworks as an experimental mode, but we were not able to see the success. Probably they're not there from the day zero because a lot of thought process, thinking, everything is being done because they come into late entrants. They don't understand that what is actually our thought process or what actually want to implement, how the coding has been done, how the designing has been done. They don't have any clue of it, and they come later on and they could not able to give the required outcomes. Then what we did is that we created our in-house team with a couple of engineers and domain experts, and we started using it, and we used to create our own frameworks. The small quantity of solutions used to do the automation. For example, if I take the core banking system, we cannot do the entire core banking system in one phase. Then we thought that okay, let us take it as in a small modules of core banking system. For example, term deposit can be one module. Then we thought that okay, can we implement only for term deposits that automation tool? And then we started using it. Then the challenges what we face is that when the manual testers writes the test conditions, it is in a normal English language, correct? I want to test the opening the TD, is it cumulative TD, or simple term deposit, or interest calculations, is the compounding or recurring and all. But the problem is that when we start using it, they cannot use these plain English test conditions. Then you have to do the scripting of conditions which can be put into the tool. And you have to create the separate test database that you have to input into the tool, then it can execute the conditions. And it used to take the same time of energy and efforts and everything. Then we said that what is use of it?
So time to automate was one of the biggest
Yeah.
concern.
Time to automation. Second is the skill sets.
Skill sets.
Third is the biggest challenge what we faced is environment.
Environment. Okay.
Because you know that okay, the SIT developers environment is a separate. And as an UAT person, I cannot touch the developer's environment. When you have to test into the UAT environment itself, and many times the UAT environment is not similar to the production environment, and it may not have all the integrations and also in a working condition. Even suppose you are going to test 30 integrations, you might have 10 integrations, or that only 5 are in working condition and 5 you have to keep it enabled. You have to call someone in IT or someone, please integrate this. I want to test this, right? And that is the biggest challenge we faced, because all environments are not same.
Correct.
And everywhere we not made the investment on the pre-prod environment.
Okay.
Because pre-prod environment is like similar to our production. It is easy to do any of the kind of automation testings. And of course, it requires a lot of end of day programs, beginning of the day programs, and there are a lot of bad jobs here to keep running it to test that it is working fine or not. In UAT, we never have that kind of a governance. Then again, we failed.
So just to summarize, so skills, the efforts required to do the automation, and then managing environments where you can actually execute it was the third biggest challenge.
Governance.
And the governance. Okay. So these challenges actually, and you said the efforts or the investment was high enough not to deliver the desired ROI. And this is where the automation did not go ahead. So if given a choice today, and if you need to choose the test automation tool for Salesforce implementations, what will you look for? What would be your criteria? Or if I can ask, while you have chosen the tool now, what did you look at when you made a decision to choose Qualitia?
See, Qualitia is a very product specific tool. Correct? It is completely embedded with the Salesforce as in a platform, and Qualitia as in a testing platform, I call it is, and both are very closely married each other. And Qualitia actually can read the metadata from the Salesforce, all the tables, structures, and everything. And because of that, I'm not required to do additional work of mapping the table structures or the metadata flows and all, correct? Because it is already given as a product itself. That is the biggest advantage I see. Second is that some of the base functionality of the Salesforce is already known to QBoss, correct? Hence, I'm not required to build that kind of a domain knowledge again. And third, hopefully your guys are closely working with the Salesforce, and they'll see the upgraded product which actually come as an inbuilt of the Salesforce platform itself as a QBoss's automated testing tool. So it ease out a lot of things when you use the tool for testing.
So domain expertise or the understanding of Salesforce and the given use case is certainly was the concern in a previous experience also, because scaling up both the things are difficult at the same time. So how it is impacting your skill upgradation? So are you saying you don't need more technology people now for scaling up the automation, or you still need to make a significant amount of investment in domain trainings for your test automation teams?
Um, it is like a mix of answer. Initially, we may still required some of the engineers and the testers, because first you have to see that whatever you built or whatever you configured in the QBoss is actually taking care of all your test scenarios and test cases, and of course test this. Once if you do that, I not required to have the engineers, correct? Then you can have, actually you can have the testers, not even so many testers, correct? With one or two testers, and just they have to execute the test conditions, correct? Uh, for if you ask me from the short term, you may need some, but from the long term perspective, as many as releases comes from the Salesforce, we're not required to have the test engineers and as well as so many test bodies to test the functional testing.
Absolutely.
That is the biggest advantage I see as of now.
How are you going to measure the success of test automation? So what kind of metrics that you would put while you start the project, and while the after first deliveries or go to market milestones, then it goes into kind of a maintenance and a change management mode? How will you measure the success of test automation then? Because these are different situations and it would probably need a different metrics to measure.
The first metrics probably I'll see that, because the business is always demanding, right? If you promise some time, always they say that okay, this is too long, you have to cut out the timelines. And the test automation tool hopefully will allow us to reduce a lot of testing time, and that is one of the measure I'll do. Suppose if my manual testing takes 30 days for completing one module testing, if the test automation tool even reduces the 50%, still I can save the 50 more days, 15 more days, correct? That is the time and speed I'll see. Second is that accuracy, because manual testing sometimes may lead to some mistakes, But in the test automation tool, if you define something, it is a binary kind of a thing, correct? It is yes or no. You will not have an option for someone to think whether it is right or wrong and all, correct? It is the accuracy is second bug. How you measure the accuracy is that how the number of bugs really is coming out after the going to the production. If the number of bugs are reduced, then automatically it shows that yes, this is the benefit of the automation. Third, if you ask me that how many resources do we need really? Suppose if we continually have something for the manual testing, and if we need 30-40 resources for complete Salesforce testing, instead of that, if I can have 15 people or 20 people, then automatically I'll reduce the number of resources so that the existing resources can be repurposed. Or if I'm taking some off-role people, then I can cut down that off-role people for doing the testing. That is the third advantage I see. And fourth advantage I see that because this all companies like Salesforce and all, they have the very frequent releases, correct? Whether you like it or you don't like it, they say that this is my Q1 delivery, Q2 delivery, Q4 delivery. You may get benefit or you may not be getting the benefit, but still they deploy. Hence you have to test it. That means you have to do the continuous rigorous testings. Not only from the Salesforce side, or we are making some change. If I want to do the entire module to be tested, manual time takes huge hell of time. Yes? But when you do the automation, by rigorous testing time, the one is that it reduces the time. Second, it covers the more and more test conditions, which is not practical and possible for the manual testing. There is a fourth advantage I see. Finally, of course, ROI, which is in terms of money. All whatever we said above, all top four things, finally leads to reducing some cost savings of testing. That hopefully these are the 5-6 parameters I see for the ROI of the automation test tool.
So what kept you awake in the night? What worried you the most from your time to market or your GTA perspective?
See, my time to market is that what are the promise you made to someone, either a CEO level or CFO level or CTO level or anyone? Are you going to meet your promise or not? And to meet that promise, because already you have the aggressive timelines you committed, and whatever you committed, will you able to deliver it or not? And for that, we keep thinking, okay, where all things I can bring the automation, or where all things I can make a change so that without altering your end object, still you can meet your object. Then of course we keep seeing that, okay, how is the entire outside organization, either it Kotak Mahindra Bank or ABC, always I think that, okay, other side of these two organizations, how the people are actually doing the things, so that you keep learning it.
End users should have been.
End users and as well as the implementations, correct? And when we see it, we don't see it from these organizations, only financial analysis, correct? But we know that, okay, Amazon do the more than some hundreds, thousands of releases every year. Or we say that, okay, Gypto is making changes overnight every day. If they're able to do it, why we are not able to do it? What are the things we can learn from the others? And we are in continuously learning mode or reading mode, and to see that what is happening. That probably evicts me most of the times.
Interesting. So how do you see the future of test automation tools? Let's say 2 to 3 years fast forward. What kind of tool, what kind of a magic tool that you would expect?
If you ask me, my expectations are very high. Yes. Thanks to the generative AI. Today, including QBOS, what I see that still we are not leveraged completely generative AI in the automation tools. If you ask me, my expectation of something is automation tool is once if the BRD is finalized, or even the tool should be a part of my BRD itself. Okay, during all our discussions, the tool should do in the passive listening of what we are discussing, and after this multiple discussions meetings, it should give us a summary, and that summary itself should be converted into the BRD, business requirement document, and you should give it to all the people who are part of the discussions. They should give their approvals. Once everyone is approved, we know that this is what is business requirement, you are going to do it, right? And that will go to the developer or whichever the partner you are going to build a solution for you. Once if the partner builds the solution, then by expectation of this, by using the generative AI and all, you know the BRD, and the tool is understood everyone's mind thinking of the solution what they're looking for, and based on the BRD, the tool itself actually should create the test conditions. Okay, and while writing the test conditions, the tool should know that to test this condition or this scenario, what are my inputs are required. It can be customer reference number, customer KYC documents, or it can be account number, anything. It knows what are the input parameters I need to have to test it, and parallelly the tool should be able to create this test base. It should create the test conditions, it should create the test base, and initially it can go by the supervisory mode. It can go to the testers or anyone. They can go through, glance, they look at everything. They say that okay, this condition is okay. They'll do the tick marking, and once it's the tick marked, then the developer is releasing it during the unit testing itself. I'm not even thinking of coming into the UAT. That is a latter part.
Yes.
Like we discussed shift left, when the developer is complete the one module development, this tool should sit on that and he should do the testing. And the developer next day morning then comes, he knows that okay, this is what is the business scenarios, this is what I developed it, and really how many failed, and what I should do before I release the next release, so that the developer level itself you are going to reduce as many as bugs. Correct? Now the developer is keep upgrading himself or herself. When it is coming for the final delivery to the user acceptance testing, and the tool is already created the conditions, the tool is already having the test base, you should keep executing it. Then the outcomes again should be seen by the human who is actually looking the outcomes of the solution. Then again you'll have tick marks, and whatever is failed, the expectations are not met, or your end outcomes are not actual expected results, again the flow back. In case of a DevOps, we do the same thing, correct? But DevOps kind of environment doesn't exist as of now for the testing.
Correct.
And this tool, the automation tool should be intelligent. It should go back to the developer saying that this is what is the conditions are failed, with the screenshots wherever it is required, or reasoning wherever it is required, so the developer easily understands. It actually reduces a lot of communication gaps. And it should be very, very transparent from the time the developer is doing the coding till the time the end consumer start using the solution. Without speaking with each other, this tool should have very transparent information from end to end.
This is awesome. This is an amazing idea.
Yes.
So it not only should be intelligent to perform certain tasks, and as you said, to start with under certain monitoring, but it should do a phenomenal job, and it is capable of doing a phenomenal job in terms of communicating across different stakeholders. I think this is a great idea.
And one more input also I'll give you. This input is specifically for the QBoss. Correct? When you saying that this tool is for the Salesforce, specific to the Salesforce, then the user expectations of this tool is that okay, now this tool is of the Salesforce, and when this tool is coming in, it should come with the defined pre-trained conditions. Correct?
Yes.
So that if I have to sell to someone, to my internal customers, I'll say that why you have to buy this tool? I say that you have to write these conditions, but this tool will give you at least 70-80% of the out of box conditions which is applicable for Salesforce. And what are the delta part? It can be 20% and 30%, which is very specific to this organization or specific to this department. They can build on. But today, no tool, including the QBoss, comes with that kind of a upfront out of box conditions, pre-trained or pre-created conditions, which I can say that proudly saying that okay, these are the conditions I have it. And some of the, like it can be integration related. Simple example, correct? You may come and say that okay, these are the 20 or 25 integrations we see every organization do the integration with the Salesforce. For these 25 integration points, this is what my pre-set of conditions. I may have a 26th integration for which I have to come and build the condition because you are not aware. It is very specific to my organization. But most of the integrations remain same.
Yes.
So that, it will enhance your product, and you can say that it is a plug and play.
Yes.
Today, none of the product solutions, test tools which I am talking about is not a plug and place. That is the reason our implementation time takes time.
Yes.
That's probably one of the input you can take it in X was. And you say that okay, my tool for a Salesforce is a plug and play.
Yes.
And I'll come with the 70% out of box. You're not required to think. And 20-30% which is very specific to your organization, you have to come and build it. And once you build, when you do the regression testing, you're not required to create them, because your platform is giving me that entire framework, which you maintain all the conditions, you maintain all the test base, and whenever the new version or new release coming in, I will do the testing. You go and sleep with peace. I'm the peacemaker for you. Correct? I'll say that, okay, you don't worry, I'm there for you. You go and sleep, I will take care of your quality.
GPJ, thank you so much. It was such a great conversation. And all this rich experience, real hands-on experience that you expressed today is of a great value to our viewers. So really thank you so much for joining us today on Quality Time. Thank you.
It is my pleasure, Rahul, being here. Thank you.
Thank you.